What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and today we're going to talk about things to know before moving to Arizona, the good, the bad, the ugly, and let's dive right in here and kick it off. Also, if you're new here and you like Arizona or you're considering moving to Arizona or you just moved to Arizona, you can subscribe and follow this channel, okay? All right. My name is Jeff, by the way. Anyway, let's get in here and talk about some things. So, Arizona, being that it's a desert, it does have a very dry climate, so dehydration is a thing. So, dry skin, dry lips, dusty mouth, headaches. Sometimes they're dehydration headaches. Okay, so dehydration can be a thing. It is dry here, it is a desert. So, when you first get here, you might be noticing your skin's a little bit drier. That's why. It's because of dehydration. So stay liquefied, right? Another thing to know about living in Arizona that I would say stands out more than anything, other places that I've been, San Diego and the East Coast, and even all around the world where I've gone. Arizona is like very car oriented, highways and byways. I mean, this is the Autobahn 101. I mean, the Loop 101, the Loop 202, State Route 51. I mean, Phoenix, all the way up to I-17, taking you up to Flagstaff, I-10 to Tucson. I mean, I get it. Every state has highways and stuff, but in Arizona, cars are the transport. There's no trains. I mean, there are trains. Like, there's a train that goes by my house, but I can't like hop on the Amtrak and go to Tucson like I could if I wanted to go from Washington D.C. to New York or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even in San Diego, I could go from San Diego to Los Angeles on a train, but I can't do that here. I could go from Los Angeles to Frisco. So highways are a big thing here in Arizona. Um, Another thing, Arizona is booming. I'm going to make a video about this, talking about this particular subject, how there is a major boom in Arizona with construction. This is nothing new to Arizona. Arizona has been for at least 50 years, just undergone a massive building boom. Here where I live in the Santan Valley, I mean, there's communities constantly getting built all over the valley, but here in the southeast Phoenix, or the metro area. This is actually Pinal County, not even considered Maricopa by now. But I mean, this whole area is under construction. It's constantly growing. They just sprawl out. So construction is a very common thing, and even the infrastructure upgrade. So there's constant. It's just something to get used to when you're here. Is there's going to be construction. I get it. There's construction in every place, but Phoenix is constantly growing, so construction is going to be there. Another thing to think about, and I think this might be kind of, people get overly concerned about this, but creepy crawlies, right? Like scorpions, rattlesnakes. Um, I mean, my friend was even over at my house. He's like, I wonder if we took a black light at night, how many scorpions we would see out here. So get your house bug sprayed. Like, that's one of the first things you should do, and then like maintain that. So being in the bug spray industry here in Arizona is probably a pretty good thing. But they have rattlesnakes and other snakes and chuckwallas and Gila monsters, but you don't see those too often. Occasionally, you probably of those you would see the rattlesnakes. They get some centipedes too. Some other things to keep in mind. Yes, it really does get to 115, 120, and sometimes higher. Yes, it can. And on those days, it is hot, like gasping for air hot. But it would be worse if there was a lot of humidity. And yeah, so the humidity is not too bad, but we do get monsoon season, and when there is monsoon season and it is approaching 110, that can be probably the worst weather that you'd experience. That season tends to last for about 2 to 3 months, pretty strong, the monsoon and the hot weather. June and July are probably the hottest months into August, though. So yes, it does get that hot. So keep that in mind. But the other times of the year, it's pretty tolerable. But it does get really freaking hot. So get ready for that. Okay. We do also get a lot of old people, or this Sun City, old people like to retire where it's hot or warm. So that heat does bring in some old people and snowbirds. Snowbirds are people who just live here seasonally. When it's cold in Canada, they live down here in Arizona for 6 months out of the year. They call them snowbirds. So snowbirds, I don't have a problem with snowbirds, but some people, they call them out of staters or snowbirds. Um, when they're here, it's nice, but when the summertime comes, they go back to Canada or Chicago, wherever they come from. But the old people typically tend to retire here in Sun City, or which is in West Phoenix. So just keep that in mind. Um, but it does snow in Arizona in places like Flagstaff, Prescott. Um, yeah. And so if you're just talking about the cities around Arizona, things to know about different cities in Arizona, you have, and I can make this more of a detailed video if you guys would like, but Tucson is, it's home of U of A, University of Arizona. It's more rustic, but it's also, it's a little bit slower pace, but it's kind of like Phoenix's little brother, right? And it's actually, Phoenix and Tucson are getting ready to connect like Philadelphia and New York are, where it's just like one, connected metropolitan area, which in between here is Casa Grande, and that's really what is in between here. But now there's these different things popping up like Eloy and some of these other little towns that are filling in and connecting it all. But it's not quite connected yet, but it's getting there. Even here in the Southeast Valley, Florence, Coolidge, Santan Valley, Queen Creek was all considered the boonies about 20 years ago. That just shows you how fast it's growing. But Tucson, it's got the Mount Lemmon there. Some beautiful mountains. It's beautiful. It's kind of like it's got areas like Tucson or Scottsdale, because Scottsdale's a ritzy area, and then Tucson's got some beautiful scenery, kind of like what Scottsdale has, in the DC Ranch area and Greyhawk, all the way up to Pinnacle Peak, and then beyond that up into Desert Mountain and Legend Trails and stuff like that. Cave Creek, Carefree. So yeah, I mean Prescott. I think Prescott's the Prescott Valley area, Prescott Valley, even the Verde Valley. I think that's gonna be like the Denver metropolitan area one day, where it's all kind of connected. Even Sedona, you can lump that in there in the Verde Valley, and I think that's gonna just kind of all just make up like what Denver is, and Boulder City and Colorado Springs, kind of just big cities, but kind of at a mile high. That's why I compare it to Denver, because it's a mile high up there. But that's definitely an up and coming area, that whole Verde Valley to Prescott Valley area. Flagstaff, it just, I don't know if it's ever going to get that big. I wouldn't be surprised if Prescott and Prescott Valley do pass Flagstaff one day. But let's see. So yeah, those are pretty much the three main cities, and then I guess you could say Yuma, which is on the border. Then you have Nogales. Yuma's cool. I mean, it's nothing really too amazing, but it's growing. Let's see, what else do we have here? So the old people ratio tends to be high. There are a lot of young people here, so don't worry about that. A lot of people think that Arizona is really expensive. It's actually not. I mean, it's buying a home in Arizona is really affordable. What is on my hat? A little hair. And then, yeah, I mean, the homes are pretty affordable. So the cost of living just in general is really affordable. Gas, I mean, it's not too much more affordable or unaffordable. It's not that expensive, considering how modern Arizona is. With all the new construction, obviously means everything is getting like state of the art designs, right? The poverty in Arizona is bad in the inner cities, but well, when I say bad, I mean there is a homeless population and poverty in like the area around. So Phoenix is laid out on a grid, right? So you have streets, which are on the east side of Central, and then on the west side of Central is the avenues. So that's the grid, right? So you have Central, it runs right along the middle, and then in between there you have just roads like Northern, all the way up to Bell Road, Union Hills to the north, and then to the south you have places like Baseline and Southern, and in between there you have McDowell and these different roads, right? So I would say that probably from about 40th Avenue towards probably 32nd Street or 40th Street, right there, and then from like South Phoenix all the way up towards Northern is really like is really central Phoenix, and that's kind of where the homeless population is probably the most condensed. But outside of that, I mean, you've got a few wanderers, but it's really not. I mean, in the suburban areas or in the rural areas, it's not even rural. It's just spread out, right? It's not so bad. So don't worry too much about that. There's a lot of people are surprised at how much there really is to do in Arizona. They think like Arizona is this desert and that's it, right? Well, I mean, there's many hikes. I mean, there's people are constantly finding new hikes, going to waterfalls, just going to rivers, the Salt River. There's no ocean here, but you can go down to Mexico. Rocky Point is a popular place for people who go in Arizona. It's about 4 hours away where the ocean is, or Phoenix, right? But Tucson, you're obviously closer to Rocky Point if you're from Tucson. And then if you're up in Verde Valley, it's even further. But the Grand Canyon, you've got all Sedona area. There's 4 major sports teams in Phoenix. So if you're into sports, off-roading, riding off-road vehicles, there's plenty of desert out there to just go tread around. If you're into history, they've got Indian ruins, reservations, for you to go explore all that. Plenty of museums, like kids museums. We're supposedly getting even more theme parks. So there's just a lot to do. The quality of life in Phoenix and in Arizona is pretty good. But if in Phoenix is, I believe it's the 6th largest city, metropolitan area in all of America. And it might just be the #1 best quality of life that you can find in all of America. And I'll touch on that later. But I personally have been to all the cities: Seattle, San Diego, Los Angeles, back east, New York, Chicago, all over Florida and Texas. And I really think that when it comes down to it, quality of life, affordable living, Arizona has it all, or Phoenix has it all. I mean, it's hard to really say that when it comes down to crunching numbers, all the data, that Phoenix is, that there's a better place than Phoenix. I mean, the complaints would be that it's a little bit dusty, that it does get hot in the summer, but what place doesn't, right? I mean, Chicago gets hot in the summer, so does New York. You can get sweltering there in the summer. There's a little bit of congestion on the freeways. It lacks public transport, trains and stuff, which I think could make, if Phoenix added mass transit system like rail, it would be really hard to say that Phoenix isn't one of the best cities in all of the world for modern life, for modern living. Really, I would say that. And then if you say the best city in America is Phoenix, then you'd be looking at, could it be one of the best modern cities in all of the world to live? And, outside of maybe Hong Kong, Singapore, and some other cities, I mean, maybe Vienna, Austria, Sydney, Australia, Vienna, Austria, I already said that. It's up there. I mean, I've been to Vienna, I've been to Melbourne, and I've been to Sydney. And I would still say that, I mean, Sydney has the ocean. Sydney's a really beautiful place. I've been to Vienna. I mean, it's outside of the history, the old history. I mean, it's got some beautiful walkways, but I would say I would rather live in Phoenix over Vienna. And Vienna was rated the #1 city in the world, according to some index. They've also ranked Melbourne as a #1 city in the world. And I mean, both those cities have rail, and Phoenix doesn't. But Vienna's landlocked. It doesn't have the ocean, but Melbourne does. So, I mean, I guess that's not the most important thing. Auckland's pretty nice. So, I don't know. Phoenix is really hard. It's really a great place to live, I would say. And so is Arizona. I mean, as many of these other places start to urban development takes place, just a theme park and some light rail or some rail systems away from really being a fantastic place. Anyways, guys, like I said earlier, go ahead and subscribe to Living in Arizona if you like videos like this. We're going to talk about all types of different subjects. Please leave a comment below if you want me to touch on something. This is a brand new channel, So it is growing, and we'll see you guys next time.